open and kind of catch everybody up?
Yep, I can do that. Hope everyone's doing well. A lot of stuff's happened since we were on here last. So taking it one day at a time, really proud of our staff and our team. It's been, we only had one true week of fall camp. Fall camp for us is practice without school going on. So we had our first week of that, and we're able to have 2 practices in helmets only, and then 2 in what we call uppers, shoulder pads and helmets. And a lot of team meetings, a lot of install, a lot of situational football, a lot of good competition during that week. And had a great feeling coming out of that week, not only with the guys, the way they were talking to each other, the way the staff was interacting, the chemistry of the club and how it was coming together. And then, went home Sunday, had a really good plan put in place for this week. And then things started getting crazy in college football. So, today, obviously, we're feeling good about what's happened in the Big 12 as far as pushing the direction of what the ACC and SEC are also trying to do. But we're really taking it one day at a time, just trying to help our student athletes and our staff manage what we can. Our focus right now is just been on our install. We've backed off on, some things contact-wise with the players and made it more about, individual operating our systems, the knowledge base, the mental stuff that goes on with it, and keeping them in physical condition. We'll get back into this weekend, putting helmet and shoulder pads on and full pads Saturday is kind of our plan. So that's where we're at right now. When things started to, kind of look for the worse on Sunday, we modified things for the beginning of this week just because we want our guys to be in a great headspace when we go out on that field. And so we sat down as a team, and Boo did a heck of a job coming over and talking with the guys. We've been very transparent about everything we know. And there's a lot of questions, the same stuff that you guys are hearing about, asking and reading that we've been dealing with. And the guys have been awesome just asking, and all of us, making sure we're on the same page each day. So, that's kind of where we are over here. I think our protocols day in and day out have done really well. The testing, the mask wearing, the cleanliness, the spacing, the way we're using our meeting rooms and spacing guys out, the way that we're doing our practices and splitting the team when we can in different groups, and keeping the numbers small and educating them on, the things outside of this building, because obviously here it's very safe for them. And they've done an outstanding job, the staff and the players alike. And so we'll just keep working that way and keep learning as we go. But excited about, kind of where things are in this hour. We'll see where things go in the next. Any questions?
Looking for raised hands. All right, JB Ricks, what you got for Coach?
Hey, Coach. Hope you and your family are well, and thank you for taking out this time. You kind of just answered my question, but I guess I can enhance it a little bit by asking you, what can be done better when it comes to the protocols of this COVID-19? The ACC is content. They put out a statement yesterday saying that they are happy with what is taking place with their 15 campuses. And you just expressed that same sentiment, but is there anything that can be done better to make sure that the ACC has a football season this fall?
Yeah, that's a good question, JB. I think we're all listening to the medical advisory boards, and all their information, flows through our medical staff and into us. And so everything that we know we're doing. I think you guys all know that this thing evolves on what the best practices are, and as they change, we change with them. So, we're doing everything that we know how to do because of the experts and following their guidelines. And all of a sudden they change what they think we should be doing, we'll change with them. But the last thing I'm going to do is put any of our staff or players at risk. The things that they've asked us to do are working. And, if there is a positive test, the return to play protocol, involves the cardiac exam. And so there's a lot of things to get the guys back even after the 14-day quarantine, they have to go through a 5 to 10-day return based on what comes back in that physical. So there's a lot of measures here, and we feel comfortable with it, but this is new for everyone. So I'm not going to tell you that it can't change. I mean, things can get better. If they give us better information, we'll change with it.
Thanks so much, Coach.
You bet.
Todd Gibson.
Coach, should the players' voices be heard more in this whole situation? They put so much effort and time into it, and they've got so much riding on this. Do you think the players their voices just isn't being heard right now, and should it be heard more?
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I'm not sure where that's coming from. I think our guys feel very heard. We're having daily discussions. I'm going to the guys on a lot of topics. I'm not making any decisions without their input right now. And I think that's because I think if in this sport, it's a physical sport, it's a mental sport that requires a lot of endurance mentally, physically. It's a contact sport. And to be good at it, you have to be in the right headspace. And so for me to have any uncertainty out there is only going to prevent them from being the player that I want them to be. And so we're very cautious about that. And I think our guys, if you ask them, will tell you that they're very heard. I don't know how things are at other places, but I don't feel that way on our campus.
Thanks, Coach.
Jonas Pope.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good, Jonas.
You mentioned it about the guys being in the right headspace, and you kind of talked about going from Sunday when everybody thought the worst until you got some kind of good news later on in the week. How do you kind of keep those guys locked in and in that right headspace with so many different changing parts that's going on in college football?
Yeah, I mean, think about the week we just had, the hurricane rains or whatever, and then we're playing football, we're not playing football, then we have an earthquake, and then we're playing football, I mean, these guys are going through it. And so I think the first thing you have to do is just admit that, they're going through a lot. And so you have to be vulnerable with them. You have to listen to them. You have to talk to them. You can't hide things. And I think just letting them talk and ask questions and letting them know that you care about them. I think just being on the same page. I think we have to embrace the fact that things are going to change, and I think that's the one thing I've told them. Like, I could come in here today and tell you something, and tomorrow it could be different. You have to embrace that because that's not out of anyone's, everyone in the world's dealing with that one right now, and we have to be good at change. But I think just knowing that there's a lot of questions, and so you've got to let them ask them, and build time for that with your players and your staff.
For that hour and a half or 2 hours when they're on the field, can you tell that's like a getaway from them, like they're really locked in to having fun and not thinking about all like the outside distractions? Yeah,
and we had a blast yesterday on the field with them. And I'll be honest with you, this whole camp's been fun. Players, there's just a good vibe here right now with our guys and our staff, and that's what's making this hard for us because these guys are really enjoying it, and they want to play. I think they feel like something is going on here that they're excited about, and I know that to be true. And so that's what makes the uncertainty hard. And you've got some young men that have gone through a lot injury-wise on this football team that have missed football and don't want to wait, another 6 months or whatever it is to play it. And so it is a release to answer your question, Jonas. And I think, you just have to be smart about, how you do it and how much. We're still, assuming we still play a month from today, we're 30 days out. And so we still have time. We don't have to do this in a sprint. You have to be smart about the workload and the recovery aspect. And it's a different camp. It's just a much different camp. And so saying, oh, this is what we used to do. No, that's not the conversation. It's what's best for today, and you talk to the guys, you talk to the staff, and everybody's on the same page.
Thanks, Coach.
Andrea Adelson.
Hey, Dave, just curious, how do you square the fact that their Big Ten and Pac-12 don't feel like it's safe to play, but the folks in the ACC believe it is safe to play? How does that mixed messaging kind of work when you sit down and try and figure out what a season could potentially look like if it happens?
I can't judge those other two leagues because I don't know what their conversations are. I haven't been given that information. I'm just listening to what the ACC is telling us and our head coaches' calls, my daily conversations that I have with our administration. I read all the same things that everyone else reads, but I'm not trying to get caught in the weeds of, why the Pac-12 does what they do or the Big Ten does what they do. They've got a different area of the country. They're dealing with different things. Their student bodies may be different, how they're being handled. Their class calendars may be different, how they're being handled. So, I know all we can do is look at what the medical advisory board and our different areas that we're in our team. And right now things here are in a very positive light.
All right, a reminder to use the little raise hand function if y'all have a question. Brett Friedlander, what do you have?
Dave, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Brett?
Good. I'm doing okay. So outside of COVID, how's the health of the team as it pertains to knees and ankles and backs and things like that a week into practice?
So you can knock on wood, everybody, at the same time, and things are good.
and how are the guys that are coming
we
back?
We want to keep it that way, Brett, so let's not talk about that one anymore.
How are the guys who are coming back from injuries, who have rehabbed, and how are they looking? Are they back in the swing of things, or is there some rust there?
They're doing well. I'm very proud of the rehab staff and the strength staff and the young men for the work they've put in. They're doing well. Now, we haven't had a lot of contact football here yet, so what I'm giving you is based off of what we've done, but they're doing well. And the return for just about all of them is right exactly where you thought it would be. And so we just need to progress here over these next 2.5 weeks and hope that stays as it is.
I know there's got to be more questions, but I don't see any more hand raises. Justin Williams, what you got?
Coach, Director of Athletics, Boo Corrigan came and spoke with the team yesterday just to kind of talk about some of the uncertainty that was going on over the weekend. Can you talk about, what he discussed with you and the team and just how frequently y'all are staying in communication?
Well, if I don't talk to Boo every day, I talk to Fred, his, my football administrator. And so I feel like I'm getting daily info, whether I'm calling him or he's calling me. He's been phenomenal, keeping me in the loop. And if I have questions, I reach out. But we've got a good working relationship communication-wise. And, with what was going on yesterday, or I guess it was Sunday, there's a lot of questions the guys had and just felt like going to the highest branch that I could go to for them. Boo asked if he could come over and help, and I said absolutely. And so we had a team meeting at 8:15 just to discuss the state of college football and what he knew and let them ask all the questions they wanted to ask. And they're all the same things you've been reading about, eligibility, if they push the season and different things like that. How long are we going to have to wait to know? Because we all thought, when our schedule came out that it was done, right, that we're playing, and then it stopped. And so they're like, how long are we going to wait? And I think that's the hardest thing for all these young people right now is they really struggle in the unknown. Telling they're playing or telling they're not playing. They may not like not playing, but at least they know. When you're sitting there thinking you're going to play and the next day you're not, then you are, then you're not. That's hard, on the mental well-being of these guys. And so they just wanted to get a timeline and find out what are the meetings that are taking place? How many of these meetings are there? How long do we have to wait? But I thought it was great, that he came over. And I think that's the thing that our athletes really respect about Boo. He's very straight up with them. He gives them information. He's not trying to, duck and dodge. I mean, it's just how transparent. If he doesn't know, he'll tell them, I don't know that one, but we're trying to find out. And so I think they appreciated the honesty and just, to get the info from him. And then we jumped into, different things on the team, where we were going next.
And just a quick follow-up on something you mentioned about the mental aspect of it all. If a season is not played, your guys better than almost anybody. What do you think their reaction would be to that?
I know that a lot of them will be disappointed, and then we'll just have to quickly turn them into what we're allowed to do. I think the biggest fear for all of these guys is it's going to go back to how it was in March, right, where all of a sudden they're on their own and everything was figure it out, go home. And that's, not the direction any of us want. We want to play. We want to be around our athletes. They want to be around us. They want to train. They want to improve. They want the interaction of their teammates. And so, where all that goes, I don't know. All I know right now is we're focused on getting these guys ready for September 12th and helping them through these up and downs, because their mental health is critical for them to be the best version of themselves. We've got to be very cognizant of that.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Jonas, you have something else?
Yes. So the first day of class was early this week, and you finally get all the students back, and the guys are away from the Murphy Center for a couple of hours. Did any guys, maybe your leaders or some of the seniors, come talk to you about some concerns they had just being around campus or any issues through those first couple of days of class?
There were some questions about how those classes would be. I think they were nervous, because in our meetings, they're spread out, and they're wearing masks, and we're very detailed about that with them. And I have a son that goes to NC State, and so I called him and said, how was it? He's like, there was like 5 empty seats on each side of me. You couldn't walk in the room without the mask over your nose. Teacher had a big, shield up in front of them when they lectured. He said it was very, very safe. And so I told the guys that. Several of them had them. And, our message to them was go to your first class. If you don't feel safe, then go to your academic advisor and see if you can switch to an online class. And the guys that I've talked to that had class yesterday were very happy with the setup that they had in their classrooms. They were completely okay with it. I haven't heard from one player yet that didn't feel that way. So that was positive because, obviously that's the thing you hear on the national stage is what's going to happen when the students come back. But I don't feel like the classroom setting is at all part of what they're afraid of now.
JB, you have something else?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Coach, yesterday, Mac Brown was very adamant about if the ACC gets shut down, there has to be a contingency plan in place. I'm curious to know from your perspective, if that does happen, what do you think should be the best scenario or the best contingency plan if they decide to not have football this fall?
Well, I think the first thing is just giving us access to the guys, allowing us to have interaction in their lives and continue to help them develop. Again, like I said a minute ago, I think if you pull the plug on the season and then just say, hey, go home, figure it out like they did in the spring, which I know nobody knew where that was headed at the time. We all thought they'd be back soon. That's not good for these young men, and it's not good for anybody, really. I think we all agree, and you've seen it even stated by Trevor Lawrence that, a lot of these young men are better being here where they're tested every week, where they're around health and safety, where they got good food, than they are going back to their communities where they're not going to have that kind of care. So we would want them to be able to stay here with us and be a part of it. And, I can't tell you the number one best way to have that set up, but I know there's going to be a lot of people sitting together here in the ACC talking that through, just like we did coming out of the spring on our return to play. There was 15 head coaches talking that one out on what is the best thing for these young men, and then putting together a proposal to the ADs and compliance and coming up with what's best for them from a physical and mental standpoint.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Jonas.
Yeah, I'm just curious, through a week or so of practice, you had a little bit of time now to kind of watch the guys and evaluate them. Which players have you seen so far have taken maybe the biggest leap from when you saw them in the spring until these first few days of practice?
Guys that were in the spring?
Just any player from last time you saw him really was the spring, those 5 days, and now you got him for a week of practice.
Yeah.
Who you seeing?
Terrell Dawkins, one of our defensive linemen, has had a really good couple days. He's gained some very good weight. He's running well. He's improved his practice habits. He's been very impressive. It's been fun to see him out there. I think Tyler Baker-Williams has really excelled this first week of camp. On offense, Emeka came out strong and made some really nice catches early on. The offensive line has been impressive. There's good depth there. They're all back And so getting to see that rotation. Derek Eason, who we moved from D-line to O-line, it's been fun to see his progress on the O-line. Having, Icky and Tyrone running around out there at the same time at times has been fun to watch for all of us. I think the backfield's fun to watch right now. There's 3 backs and really 4. Delbert's playing well, but to see the rotation that Coach Roper has, from Jordan Houston to Bam to Ricky, and then Delbert and Trent. I mean, there's 5 guys that are in and out of that backfield that are making plays in practice, that are physical, that have confidence. And so that's been fun to watch.
Does anybody else have anything? Julia Carter. Matt. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, sorry, I'm using my daughter's Zoom. Coach, you had a late addition to your roster in Raquem Ashford over the summer. Can you kind of talk about how that came together and how quickly he's been able to adjust?
Well, we had a player, Isaiah Stallings, decide to drop down a level to play his senior year, and so we felt like getting, a transfer in to that spot to kind of, again, spread out the depth was important, because we have some good young players, we have some good older players, and getting that kind of middle filled out. So we went around and started looking at, the transfer portal, the junior colleges that were out there, and Coach Mitchell found Raquem. He's been great. Really impressed with his football IQ, how fast he's learned everything, works really hard. And he picked our defense up really fast. And so, the physical tools, it's hard for me to give you that yet, because there's a lot we need to do still to see how he is in coverage and tackling and things. But the mental part, he's been really, really good, picking things up, and just his day-to-day work ethic and attitude and consistency.
Alex Sawyer, what do you have?
Hey, Coach, this is obviously a very different entry into college football for the freshman class. How do you feel like those guys have done now that they've had a week, both from the mental side of things, but also the way they've gotten into the flow of practice?
Well, I think you have to take your hat off to that class, not just here. I mean, boy, what they've been through, and so many of them losing their last semester of high school for the ones that weren't early grads, and missing graduation, missing prom, missing all the things you get to do with your friends. I think all of us would say that was a great semester of high school for us, and so they lost that. And then they enter college during, like our freshmen were in Wolf Village dorm, and there was no one else there. Imagine being dropped off by your family and see you later, and you're the only one on campus. It's been hard, and they've really, really handled it. And I think what it did is it brought that class together. They have really good chemistry. They look out for each other. They have a good bond that, shared adversity creates, I think. So far in practice, they've done a nice job. We've been able to get them some repetitions. And, again, you want to see more with the physical things that are coming. But it's been an impressive group. And you don't have to tell them too many times to do something. I think that's the one thing that all coaches love, is we call them one-time players. You tell them something one time, and then they go do it. And there's a lot of guys in this class that are that way.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate everybody joining us. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Annabelle.